We're building a grassroots army. It's going to be their money versus your muscle. If you have Kelli Ward's back, trust me, we're going to turn this country around. We're going to put America first. And in doing that, you're going to help Donald Trump make America great again.
The Trump whisperer Steve Bannon now testing his own political clout, throwing his support behind conservatives who will take out establishment Republicans like Senator Jeff Flake. He backed Flake's opponent Kelli Ward last week in Scottsdale. Meantime, Flake is doubling down on his opposition to President Trump in yet another national interview. Christine, is Steve Bannon the best thing or the worst thing that could have happened to the Republican Party right now?
I think it is too soon to tell. I understand we're approaching November and it's getting to be late in the season here, but I still think it's too soon to tell. Even though you seem to have these splits between the White House and Bannon on a couple of candidates, like the Alabama piece and maybe one in Utah, potentially one in Arizona. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do think the White House is really serious about keeping the Senate. So Bannon can go out and do Bannon's thing, and he's really, really, really good at it. But I don't think it's such a huge rift and this big divide that everybody's trying to make it out to be. In the end, I think the White House is really going to try to nail down a candidate that can actually win, unlike Kelli Ward.
I got to tell you, I was at that rally. It's a pretty big divide. He's using language we have not heard from any Republican candidate, Chris.
Steve Bannon is the curator, the chief curator of the alt-right. Wherever he goes, he spreads bigotry and he spreads hate. And he came into Arizona this past week and endorsed the right-wing nut job, Kelli Ward, who on this program a couple of months ago I said, you know, had basically no chance. I'll take all that back now. I think she is the favorite now against Jeff Flake. I think she is the Steve Bannon, Donald Trump candidate now. And it's a sad state of affairs. But the reality is the Republican organization, whether it's former Chairman Robert Graham or Treasurer Jeff DeWitt, the Republican organization in the state of Arizona is now the Trump Republican Party and Steve Bannon's party. And it was on display this past week.
And so what's interesting is there aren't that many policy differences between Jeff Flake and Kelli Ward. Would you agree with that?
Well, and
do you think they'd largely vote the same way?
For me, a constitutional conservative, I cannot for the life of me understand why Senator Flake would write the book and come out against the president when he could have stayed silent. He has one of the single closest voting records to the president's position of any member of the United States Congress. They are much more aligned on policy than people want them to be, and yet he keeps bashing the president, which makes no sense. So I actually agree with Chris that as if the election were today, Kelli probably has a better chance. And yet we still have a problem in the general election because, as we discussed before, her presence on the ticket depresses turnout. There's nothing exciting happening at the top of the ticket. That's going to be a pretty easy race there. So if the Republicans don't find a better candidate, which is why I think it's still too soon to tell, people better get used to saying the reinvented Kyrsten Sinema could become, you know, slick, savvy politician, Senator Sinema, if we're not careful.
And here's the thing: what Bannon made clear to that crowd is this is basically a yes or no test. Do you support President Trump? And Flake, as you just pointed out, is flunking that test with flying colors.
Except for his voting record. It's entirely inconsistent.
There are some sexy political issues that Ward and Flake disagree on. Their attitude towards Muslims, their attitude towards inclusiveness.
Immigration.
Immigration, in particular. Cuba. John McCain.
For sure, Cuba.
John McCain, our other U.S. Senator, who's courageously fighting brain cancer. Steve Bannon comes into town and rakes him over the coals. And that's what Kelli Ward will keep doing. And Flake is going to defend John McCain, as he should. There are some big character, personality issues, certainly, between these two. The only correction I'll make is I'd be delighted to see Kyrsten Sinema our next U.S. Senator, and I think she will be.
But she's completely reinvented herself, right? And this is puzzling to me as a person who's run for office. I'm not sure what she is anymore because she's been in the Green Party and the Communist Party and the Socialist Party, and I don't know who she is, and I'm not sure she does either, which is why we ought to do everything we can to keep her out of the Senate.
Well, that's a good that's a good commercial. I can see that coming, and Flake's staff have already tried to use that.
You know what? They're welcome to take
the bottom line.
Put that in a box, as you say. I make good ads.
Yes.
So.
When she was in the legislature, she was a tremendous consensus builder. She solved problems, and she has been consistent. You may not like it, but she's been consistent as a congressperson as well.
Well, Chris, come on. She does everything she can to just squeak by with the Chamber of Commerce endorsement. And she gets protected by the leadership so that she can just squeak by in a wobbler district. She's not consistent on anything.
I want to bring this back.
And Martha McSally doesn't do that down in southern Arizona?
We're not talking about Martha. She's not running for Senate.
I want to bring this back to Bannon. If it's Ward and if it's still Bannon behind her, which is likely if she is the candidate, the Republican nominee, how much does Bannon hurt Ward, maybe more than Ward might hurt herself in a general against somebody like Sinema?
I have a thought on that, actually. Our primary is so late that it may be informed by what happens in the prior primaries. So if his candidate against Orrin Hatch in Utah is successful, maybe it bodes better for fundraising for here in Arizona. I'm not sure we know the answer to that yet until we see how some of these other races play out.
The Heller race in Nevada is another one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's equal. I think Trump and Bannon, you know, they're equal with regards to the assistance they'll give Kelli Ward in the Republican primary here in Arizona, but they will kill her in the general election, and Sinema will be our next senator.
You snuck that one in. All right, when we come back.